I really love how we have not even mentioned the book that we're.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, we'll get to that.
Hold on. The example that I think really demonstrates what could have been done with Give Up the Ghost is Dennis Lehane's Gone Baby Gone.
Oh yeah.
Where it is absolutely dripping with the character of like South Boston, right? Like it is super localized. You couldn't tell this kind of story, or you definitely couldn't tell it in the same way without this guy taking on the role of the role of a detective, even though he is not a detective, right? Because of his distinct standing in this very small community. And he does it, and he accomplishes most things, like a little bit through physical grit, but mostly through like the distinctness of his character.
Yeah.
And the resolution to Gone Baby Gone is fantastic and melancholy. And I wanted an ending as good as the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
And I didn't get one. And that is what that is the source of my disappointment and why I was harsh with my critique, because I know that he can write something that is really elevated. Like he couldn't have done the first part if he couldn't have ended it in an equally like high quality way.
Yeah.
That is my take on Give Up the Ghost.
my favorite character in Gone Baby Gone was the dealer that he like kind of reminded me of like that rapper Slain.
Oh, like the
Fred Durst.
The big wig.
Yeah. Like he just pours the yayo on the floor with that like obese woman. That was very funny.
There's a I think that's a repeating character. Like that's a recurring character.
Yeah.
I haven't read all the I've read Gone Baby Gone. I have not read the other books in the series.
Yeah, and Casey Affleck does do a really good job. I mean,
a lot
of their characters are
actually
like
the film is really good. The film was really well done too.
Like I feel like a lot of the Affleck brothers, like that's their thing, is like Boyston. And it's
only do Boston stuff. Like it's much better when you do Boston stuff.
Yeah.
Every major metropolitan area should have a famous person who tells stories about that area.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, except for New York and LA, because they've had their time. They've had a century of this, guys.
It's everywhere. Yeah. That's crazy. You think like someone, I don't know, could Casey Affleck play Bobby Orr? That could be something, Although I hate the Boston Bruins, but it is what it is, right? you can't like, you have to give props to greatness. But anyways, yeah, so we're talking about House of Leaves, but specifically starting in the beginning, we're talking about the Wharton Letters.
Whalestoe Letters.
Whalestone, sorry.
Not a business school.
Wharton, yeah.
The Wharton School of Business.
The Wharton School. Is that where Barron Trump is going, or?
That's where Trump went.
Yeah, that's where Trump went. Yeah, and like I remember they made a big deal of like, oh, his former professor said that Trump's crazy, like he has no economic insight, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, of course they're going to say that. They're like, academics, but no, the Whalestone Institute, which is a correspondence of letters from his mother, from Johnny Truant's mother, and a lot of people. I think it's worthy to start from here because a lot of people like sort of like. I know, like, because nowadays, our good friend, our good friend Wagner, I remember one time when I floated the idea of doing a series on House of Leaves, he informed me that, like, because he's a Gen Xer, now as Wagner, he said that, like, all these hipsters would read House of Leaves, like, they would read that. And then, like, if I forget what other popular literature was there at the time. Oh yeah. If you were like a literature bro, then you'd read, you of course read Infinite Jest. But, but nowadays House of Leaves have sort of gone through a weird revival, partly because of Soylenial nostalgia, which is the reason I read it, but also because I think Zoomies are really occupied with a sort of like a postmodern or hypermodern notion of space. So, but unfortunately, a lot of people, they like totally skip over everything to do with Johnny Truant, his like love interests, his mother. Now they just like, I want to just focus on the Navidson record and that's it. But
guys, I want to. Have you heard of liminal spaces?
But the thing is, like, I could like theory sell these people are like in circles, like people that do video essayists, like video essayists on YouTube that do like the whole liminal spaces thing. Like, they get at some truth, but like you could tell like they've never read Mark Ogg, they've never read Heidegger, building dwelling thinking, but it is what it is. But yeah, the whole like liminal spaces thing has led to like sort of like a literary revival of Danilowski's work. And I think that, the reason let me ask you, like, how did you discover House of Leaves? Or you're older.
I discovered House of Leaves via 4chan in approximately 2005.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And subsequently bought and read it. And then I was like, oh, there's this companion book, and got the Whalestoe Letters. I actually have it's sitting right next to me. I still have that copy. Subsequent. I mean, it was really cool. I had never read. I had never read a book like it. Ergodic literature, not common then, not common now, more common now, because of hypertext. I actually think that writing now, that something like, say, the SCP Foundation is fundamentally an ergodic project because of like cross-referencing and hyperlinking to various areas.
And of course, like a lot of like sci-fi or rather like horror literature, it deals with that. I mean, basically the whole backrooms phenomenon. I mean, did the backrooms like later become an SCP thing? Like, it started off in 4chan. It didn't like really start off there.
I'm not sure what I mean, it might have just started as a creepypasta that just had enough of a charismatic narrative to function.
Yeah.
I mean, so briefly before we get into the backrooms, let's just say, okay, so House of Leaves is a novel from the year 2000.
Oh, millennial nostalgia.
Yeah, Y2K. Is a novel from the year 2000 by Mark Danilowski, who is an experimental author. He's written several things,
Postmodern
all of which are very like post. I mean, he's like a post-structuralist.
Yeah, pretty much,
almost. Yeah. But he wrote this novel, and it is framed multiple ways. It really deals with the dissolution of boundaries.
Yeah,
is a theme both in both like diegetically, like both within the narrative and as part of the structure of the narrative. And this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of something being cohesive, being thereby elevated.
But it's a fake academic work discovered by Johnny Truant when he's flipping the apartment of
Zapano. So the frame is so it is a manuscript that is passed through several different hands about a film about a house.
Yeah.
And so that
becomes a mock academic work.
That becomes a mock academic work, and it's various levels, like various different styles of citations and sourcing and things like that.
And there's a lot of concrete writing as well.
There's a lot of concrete writing. Eventually, as the narrative progresses, it's not just text from left to right, top to bottom of the page. Things are rotated. the boundaries of pages are not respected. The boundaries of like the vertical depth of the book is not respected. It's like margins that have been established throughout the book are not respected. So it dissolves the boundaries of like the object, as well as it dissolves the boundaries of we'll say, so the house is a normal looking house that has a hallway that leads into a labyrinth, and of course it's larger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yeah, they couldn't measure the measurement of the house itself was like off. So Navidson Navy and his brother, they like try to measure the house obsessively and like, well, it's off a few millimeters or whatever. I forget the exact measurement, but yeah, go ahead.
And then they realized there's this passageway, and it leads to a labyrinth of unknown dimensions.
Yeah.
Of unknown and unfixed dimensions
that seemingly grows and changes.
Yes.
Yeah. Like there's a grand hall, there's like little rooms, but there's nothing in there. There's like no dust, it's barren. And it's like even there's this. I remember there's like a long description that was made in concrete writing that went on for like 50 pages of like just describing what like the absence of building materials. Like there's no stucco, there's no relief molding, there's no concrete, there's no this, there's no that, and it like just goes on and on and on and on and on.
It's just simultaneously bounded, but not bounded by anything specifically.
Yeah, silken black rooms.
Space.
That's it. Yeah.
And then the Navidsons, the people who had this house and were exploring it, created the Navidson Record, which is a film. And
this is the early 90s,
and also documents about it. So and then it was and then it is a academic work about that material written by a man called Zampano. And then the manuscript was abandoned and subsequently discovered by Johnny Truant, who is the primary narrator, who adds all sorts of materials, including things about his own personal life, including the Whalestoe Letters, which were letters written to him from his mother, who was institutionalized in the attic whale. The attic whale. It's got a long technical name. The 3 Attic Whalestoe Institute,
which is an insane asylum, basically. That's like, but this is back in the 80s when he was a kid. So it was one of those institutions like pre-Ronnie Reagan, where if you were there, unless you had a family member that desperately wanted you out, you were there for life, basically. Yeah.
Remember, you're here forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest type of deal. Yeah.
And then just to add to that, to add to all of the footnotes, et cetera, there's also editor's notes that occur on top of Truant's.
Yes.
And so you're like 6 layers deep in frame here.
And Zampano writes all these letters, and you have to realize, like, just as a side note, the amount of knowledge on academic literature or fake academic literature or academies that Danilowski has, even to the knowledge of like the film equipment that they're using, is incredible. His knowledge of postmodern authors such as Derrida, Baudrillard, I believe Heidegger may have come up once or twice. I know Camille Paglia comes up a lot. And so it's made in this Baroque academic language, but also what's very interesting, which I may talk about with someone else, like, because we're mostly going to focus on the Whalestoe Letters. What's very fascinating is that the world of House of Leaves that Zampano is creating, or maybe he discovered, who knows? It's like basically the whole world is hyper focused on this house in Virginia on Ash Tree Lane, to where there's like academic papers about like the most mundane of mundane things about the Navidson family. And they're like on talk shows, on Oprah, on radio shows. There's being interviewed. And so it's like, imagine, I can't really think of an equivalent. Maybe like I don't know, what could you think of, like, maybe like biographies of a royal family, but like something about like fundamentally disrupting the character of the world. And so you have like these academic theorizing, and also,
where every single
yeah,
aspect of it
yeah,
is the subject of like at least a dissertation level work, like
exactly. Yeah,
the food that was in their kitchen, you know,
yeah, the
like that
bookshelves.
level of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
What's her name? Karen, the wife.
I don't recall all of the my I don't recall all of the cast of characters because it has been some time since I've read the
Yeah,
core book. For this, I reread the Whalestoe Letters, and so
yeah.
uh, so the core book I am reliant upon my decade memory of it.
House of Leaves characters. I think her name is Karen. Um, Karen Green. She was like an
Oh,
actress.
the non wife of Navidson
Yeah,
or
yeah,
of John, yeah, Johnny.
yeah. Johnny. Oh, no, because
No, Navidson. It was Navidson. Yeah,
yeah,
'cause
yeah,
they were unmarried couple with children
yeah.
living in the house.
And she was an actress, and he was a famous war correspondent journalist that went into like various conflict zones. And of course, in the book, they do a fake, but this happened in real life. He was the one that that in this universe, he's the one that captured the infamous photo of the starving child in Somalia with a vulture
With a
waiting.
vulture, yeah,
Yeah,
waiting to eat them.
yeah, and but in real life, that photojournalist, I believe he won the Pulitzer Prize in photojournalism for that. But then a few years later, he sunsetted himself.
Right.
Um, yeah, because of it. So,
Because
but in this,
he couldn't deal
yeah,
with
yeah,
having succeeded because of this kid who was, dead
yeah,
essentially.
starving, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dinalowski, what he does is that basically Navy, the main character of the Navidson Record, he like is consumed with guilt over it. But it's like, imagine if that guy were to have lived and had a family and then experienced this, right? So,
Yep.
and so then of course like his brother is sort of like a Whalestoe, but he's like a handyman or whatever. Um, and she was an actress, and then like there's like whole academic records of just like her cheating on him and like her self-fulfillment and all this crap. And it's like basically they're picking apart every little aspect of this family's life.
Yeah.
And because imagine if we were to discover like a literal backrooms nowadays without like the government trying to cover it
You
up.
mean a
Yeah,
vacant office?
but you know what I mean, like that kept growing and changing.
I know. I know.
You know what's
Lots
crazy is
of
that
vacant
Kane Pixel.
offices right now, just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
The
But you know what's
Zoomer
funny?
mind can literally not comprehend a
A
vacant office,
vacant office, yeah.
especially if it has a VHS filter on it.
Oh, but no, but it's what's crazy that Kane Pixels, I think, has for being like only 19 years old, has probably the most realistic take where the government would cover it up, but then the government would be like, okay, what are we gonna do with the back rooms? Oh, we're gonna use it for infinite storage. We're gonna hook to corporations. It's like that's literally what would happen.
Would be hilarious. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like having an infinite connected single level volume of space would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it would be a humanity touchstone. Yeah. It would
Yeah.
be just as important as the internet would be to like digital space.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like, what are you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna put all the servers there.
yeah, we're gonna put everything. Like global corporate capitalism would have like this immense
Yeah.
revival because of this one location.
Well, of course, unless it
Yeah,
was only accessible from a single location, in which
yeah, then
case,
you'd be screwed. Yeah, yeah,
well, no, not really. In which case, then like a city, like a fortified area needs to be spread around the entrance to whatever this volume of space is.
oh yeah.
And
They'd have a dump pad. There would be like a whole military base next to it. Yeah,
yeah, that'd be
yeah.
wild. Anyway,
No, but that's what I mean. Like that's it's like you would have like immense intrigue, but oh, by the way, there's some kind of like anomaly monster there, and like people keep dying, and we keep discovering random happenstances. But anyways, yeah, House of Leaves is basically the inspiration for that. And there's like a debate whether the voice and the sort of growl that they hear, if it actually is a monster driving people insane.
The Minotaur, yeah.
Yeah, the Minotaur. But really, it's probably just the house itself. But then Navidson's brother, he like tries to mock it. He calls it Mr. Monster, which I felt was really crazy. But yeah, so
spirits.
yeah. You want me? Come and get me. Yeah, it's like he's like going crazy in there, which is really crazy because like they never, like, spoiler alert, they don't. I'm assuming the brother died after the house swallowed him whole, right? Like it.
Well, he disappeared, but we also know that there's that time is unbounded within the labyrinth because Will Navidson like is discovered months later. Having like starved, except he didn't have any water or anything either. So clearly he like was just on his last legs when he was found, but you could not have survived months with no sustenance.
Well, because he had to abandon his cart full of water and resources because he had to climb up these stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was trying to find his brother. But it's sort of similar to, I think that's the trope where the Backrooms editors on YouTube, I think they get that, for example, like the one Lost in Hyperspace, where you'll have like the camera, like the old 90s VHS recorder, and they would have like the timestamp on the side, right? For those Zoomers don't remember this, you used to have timestamps. And the timestamp would like go crazy between like different years and different decades. And so that would be like an indicator that time has no relevance the way that we think of time. So it's like an extra dimensional plane. That's like, it's something that Terrence McKenna said once, where he's like, if you could access a fourth dimension, then, the time in this dimension would be totally irrelevant. It would be malleable. And, and so of course, like, his thing was that taking ayahuasca was essentially tapping into a different dimension. But anyways,
you could travel along that dimension and drop down into the other ones wherever
into
you want.
the present, into the past, into the future, even. Because it's true though, if you were to access a different dimensional plane, you could probably drop into a different time zone completely. So, but anyways, yeah. So the Backrooms is very ambitious work. Unfortunately, it has been Redditified by people who are like, it's either spoopy scary or it's like, what if there was a liminal space that went on forever? It's like, but I think, go ahead, Kev.
What if there was a werewolf in it and the werewolf was horny for you? That's the ultimate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a whole species that lives in the Backrooms and et cetera, et cetera. It just gets.
Yeah. By the way, it's a monster that's like jet black. It's kind of like Alien. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a tall guy, some sort of slender man. That yet another Slender Man, yet another thing that has been infinitely remixed since its creation on the Something Awful forums in approximately 2001 or something.
Oh, it wasn't a creepypasta. It was on Something Awful before.
Yeah, it was a Photoshop. Slender Man was created in Photoshop Friday, a challenge to create a new urban legend on Something Awful.
See, yeah, they would do like, okay, Something Awful. They would do like these weird postmodern internet age social experiments. I remember
Something Awful is the unsung hero of Internet 2.0.
Yeah.
By the way.
Even though like a lot of terrible people congregated on there and became like very influential, and they have various, they would hate for all of those archives to be rediscovered. But
it's completely out now.
Yeah. But also like very influential like journalists and games journalists and like people in positions of power were goons on Something Awful.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Like Ezra Klein was one.
You can literally go there and pay them $10.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who's getting that, if it's low taxes estate or whatever, but
probably his ex-wife or whatever. Yeah. But it's funny but that's what I mean. Like if they created Slender Man, like in terms of a completely online mythology or mythos, it's sort of similar to what's that water? I remember Don Jolly. If you remember, Don Jolly used to do videos.
No,
even though like, well, he was like, he became famous because he was like he interviewed Sam Hyde, but he was like a something awful guy, and he had this
Oh,
alternative literature website called something zone, the zone.x, encyclopedia.zone or whatever. But you know, he
huh.
was into, yeah, he would like him. He
I
was
do
into all,
remember. I do remember that Jason Pargin, who
yeah.
used to write as David Wong, also started there as well.
There was another magazine that it came from. I remember Stan Haynes was talking about this.
Hmm.
It was called I forget the original magazine that was online, but then Don Jolly, he created this dot zone encyclopedia for like weird literature. But you know, he was sort of like, I wouldn't say like post left, but he was sort of like definitely like into parapolitics, and like he was, you know, interviewing Sam Hyde as like a social experiment thing. This was when Sam Hyde just got off of being fired from from, you know, Adult Swim. But
Yeah.
he did these great videos, and he explained like how they would sort of like view trolling as an art form. Like there was this oh man, I forget the exact name of this water company in this like obscure town in California where it had like a website, and all these something awful goons, they would like create like theory, like auto fiction literature based on all the people on this website working for this water treatment company.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
forget what it was called, but I think it was like the Bethesda Water Company or something like that. And they would like create all these like drama between the different like managers, and it would, and I think like some goons actually tried to like contact these people in real life, and like, you know, but the whole point was like,
Did you know that you're the subject of an elaborate
yeah,
fiction project from a
on
bunch
the
of weird
internet.
anons? Yeah.
Yeah. No, but the whole point was to like take random people and make them internet famous, which people do that all the time. I mean, like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I personally think that you can't.
Except that was essentially a pure attempt to do that for no
Yes,
reason other than to see if the astroturf was possible. It wasn't like the
exactly.
Hawk Twa girl where
That's what I was
like
gonna say. It wasn't
there's
like Hot
clearly,
Tua. Yeah.
yeah, where there's like an actual like there's some financial incentive behind all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Also, like, I think you can't reach a certain level unless you have some kind of like backing or support. Like Hawk
Nowadays,
Tua,
yeah.
for instance, like for some reason, like the culture, especially in the 2000s, even like, you know, pre-Zoomer days, like with us millennials, although I guess this was going on forever, where the culture would just like give some random nobody that was like lower class a lot of like popularity and intrigue and attention, like Octomom, Honey Boo Boo, uh,
God.
the British singer, what's her name, the old woman. Oh,
There's who was it that like Hmong guy who was a really singer who
yeah,
got famous because
yeah,
of a bad tryout? Yeah, that guy.
or that guy, but also like the British woman, the old British woman that went on the Voice or whatever it was called. Oh man, I forget. But
I have
anyways,
no memory of that. Yeah, it's
uh,
gone.
yeah, Honey Boo Boo. Like we always have to find like every 5 to 10 years we have to find like a new Honey Boo Boo to like pour intrigue on, or like reality television stars. Britain has their own ones. Ireland has their own one. Like the Anglosphere always has these people, like you know, and they usually like are adjacent to some reality television show. But it's very funny. Like Hawk Tuah was like our manifestation of that, or like who was before Hawk Tuah was Oliver Anthony, but that was like political. That was different.
Oliver Anthony was definitely yeah.
Yeah, or like Trailer Park Girl, from TikTok. She had like 5 kids or whatever. But
Oh,
anyways,
the one
yeah,
who was like, "This is your trad wife, sir."
yeah,
Like
that
that
one.
one.
Yeah, no, or like even like in the 2000s, yeah, like Carolyn Calloway was like one of them. But she like created this literary career off of being like famous for being famous, sort of deal. I don't know. It's like,
You have
but
a you
yeah,
have a much better memory for all of this stuff than I do. I never really got into I was only like
yeah,
aware of most. I basically spent the entire time period of reality TV show being the dominant form of entertainment. I spent that entire time period rigorously not watching television.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
and so I missed out on the pop culture of most of that time because instead I was reading weird shit. So
Yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid, before I went on the internet, I was like a avid TV watcher. I was like a couch potato. So it's like, but then the internet just provided me more of a, well, anyways. So let's go to the Whalestoe Letters. There's a lot of like very Baroque, I think like mythological references. And I think that's my,
sure.
See, the thing is like the way I take House of Leaves is that for all of this thing about like it being like postmodern or post-structuralist literature, there is sort of like a very ancient mythological heart that goes even beyond like the Minotaur, but we'll get into it. But what was your impression of the Whalestoe Letters? I mean, so essentially Johnny's a kid and he's like corresponding with his mother, but then progressively over time as he gets older, he goes from foster home to foster home. Eventually he found Raymond, who teaches him how to be like a scumbag criminal.
Yep.
And so then he sort of like loses interest in his own mother, or she sort of alienates him. And I believe the original reason she's in there is because his father
she tried to steal him.
yeah.
She had one of her psychotic breaks and tried to,
and therefore his father institutionalized her. But why was he in foster care? Because his father died, I think, or something.
yeah, his father died in a car. His father died in a car accident.
Yeah, and so then he was in different foster homes, and very typical story of like lower class, like working class type of situation, right?
Yeah.
So what was your impression of the Whalestoe Letters? Like, what would you really find? Like, I guess as a general overview, take it away, Cap. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Whalestoe Letters are solely from the perspective of Johnny's mother, Pelefina Lefave.
Yeah.
Lefave, or however you want to pronounce that. And she is effusive. She uses phrases from many languages. I think she uses like 7 languages.
Yeah.
To just say little phrases to him to emphasize her feelings. And she's attempting to express herself through this haze of deteriorating mental state.
Yeah.
And so it becomes clear that she is an unreliable narrator in every way except the expression of her own mental state.
Yes.
Although she does not have a correct handle on her own mental state. She cannot fail to express it.
Well, she jumps like from like there's a new director that doesn't let me write you letters.
At one point, it is not so often. Her deterioration is clear is like clear in a very like and one thing that Danilewski does that's very interesting in this is that the gradient of degradation is pretty smooth. Like you can see, she's going downhill now, and you can detect it. You can just tell. Right?
Yeah.
There's usually just like 1 or 2 little like backhanded kind of things just like sprinkled in there to let you know that it's not going well for dear Pelefina.
Yeah.
And the and when she fully degrades, the Whalestoe Letters themselves take on this sort of concrete writing that is present in House of Leaves.
So then you have this alliteration to the work as a whole, and you have this inversion. Yeah. But go ahead.
And there are lots of puns and callbacks. He uses what is it, the Caesarean cipher, where where capitalized letters have a hidden text. There's one letter, in fact, that is written in 2 ciphers, but also the overall words of it are evocative of the content of the cipher, and it's one of the one of the most interesting pieces of writing I think I've ever seen, and I appreciated it more on this reread than I did when I originally read it. There are, and some of the there are multi-linguistic puns where she says she called him Bambino Dell'Oro, as like my golden boy, at one point, and then as she degrades, there's a page of like fragmentary text where she's like Doloro Dell'Oro, like dolorous as in painful, and burdensome like of gold. So she's expressing both her pain at not having seen her son, along with her affection and her the way in which she still cherishes him, and it's these multilinguistic things that Danilewski does through Pelefina.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
No, keep going.
Well, I was going to say like that, like the Descent into Concrete Writing, I think it's sort of similar to how every time there's the word house, that gets highlighted in blue. It's sort of like, how shall I say it? It's an indication of the overall unreliable narrative, or the overall, like I would even say, like the metaphysical presence of a certain form of madness that accompanies the reality of House of Leaves. And I think that so to me, like what I interpreted from it is that in a way, like Johnny, he's just as much a victim as Zappano was, as even like in the story, even like Navy Navidson is. Like, you could tell that there's this history of mental anguish and madness, and of course, like in the ancient world, as we'll get to, madness is
the same,
deeply
is
akin
the same
to
as prophecy.
Exactly, deeply akin to prophecy and spiritual insight. So I think, for my interpretation, Johnny was almost like, and it's implied in the book that he was always meant in his life to experience the Navidson Record. And the fact that like that's sort of like, I remember when I first saw the concrete writing on like the corner margins to the letters, I'm like, oh, see, there you go, it makes sense. Like, he was always being captured by this presence, and it only took to when he was in his late 20s, 30s to like truly realize it when he discovers the record. So is that the vibe that you got? Or the
vibe that the like being surrounded by and birthed by madness was, I mean, I think, there's a sense that I recall from House of Leaves where the madness is predatory, right, and that the madness is predatory and that it focuses on certain individuals. And I could definitely see that. I hadn't caught that Johnny was the focus of it necessarily. But I mean, that thread's definitely there in the text. At one point, and forgive me if I am forgetting my Iliad, but at one point Pelefina refers to herself as Clytemnestra.
Yes, Clytemnestra,
which is Agamemnon's wife, but I'm not sure. Like, she didn't call herself Cassandra. She didn't call it who was the prophetess in the narrative. So
she invokes Hecate.
Hecate. Well, which is what a fury of revenge, or like a mother's revenge. Is that right?
Pretty much. This is when Johnny was getting bullied in school, or he had a fight or something.
I think it was when he got nut by his foster father.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah. And they were like, it implies that like they were trying to like hide that from her or something. But you can't really tell because like she's crazy. So for example, like when she alludes to like, oh, the director is like preventing letters.
Hecate was a goddess of boundaries.
Yes, I was gonna get to that.
Yes. Homes, walls, doors, crossroads, and the family.
and also witches, nocturnal, the Nocturne. And I wanted to actually read this part from Jung that talks about Hecate. So if you go to like but anyways, we'll mention the sort of like, but really quickly, it's implied that she's like unreliable because she says that, oh, there's this new director and he's preventing me from writing you. I have to like sneak these letters out. Maybe they're like preventing they're stopping your letters from getting to me. But in actuality, Johnny's just he stopped writing her.
Well, no. Well, there's two things.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
One, it's the same director. It's the same guy. It never changes. It's always been the same director. It was the same director for almost the entire time. And once she comes out of her did you read the standalone book, or did you read the Whalestoe letters that are at the end of House of Leaves?
I read apparently there's more letters in the standalone book, but I read just the House of Leaves one.
So at the end, and I'm not sure which ones are not shared. So at the end of it, it is revealed like she comes out of her psychosis.
Yeah.
And says it was the same director the whole time. It was none other than the old director. They informed me that you had come to visit several times.
Yeah.
And I had not, and I was simply unable to hold on to these precious memories, that type of thing. So she was just completely unreliable. She was spiraling, and in fact, she had not even sent many of the letters. When she had been sneaking them out, she had essentially been destroying them, or she had been like literally hiding them in nooks and crannies and stuff.
Holy crap! So she was like sort of undermining her own narrative about her stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead, Cap. Yeah, go ahead.
And then at the end, the director actually does change. And there are there's a letter from that director to Johnny, which is awful. And the final letter from Pelefina, which at some point in this recording I want to read, because something that really justifies the Whalestoe Letters as a standalone work is this this feeling that is very evocative for me of a mother's love and a child's responsibility to a parent.
Yes.
Which is a somewhat perverse inversion of the proper role of a child and parent. A parent should care for their children and provide something for their posterity. But when that is impossible, and when the parent is no longer vital in whatever way, then the responsibility inverts to the child. And I don't know, it's very evocative. I got a little misty, if I'm honest, at the last letter, so we'll definitely read that.
Well, I even like throughout the book, Johnny is sort of like alluding to his mother. He's like, am I crazy because she was crazier? Then he starts to regret about like his life, about like, did I fail her? Did I make something of myself? Because, he's sort of like living your typical like East Hollywood low living, where he's like working for a tattoo shop. He, I forget like how he discovers upon his apartment. Like, was he flipping apartments with his friend Ludes? Or
I thought he was like cleaning. He was like a junk guy.
Yeah.
And he found a trunk full of it. Yeah.
And then he like started to obsess with it. He like had no money. He was like living off of Campbell's soup and no electricity. And he took into the same mania similar to his own mother in a weird way, but with something entirely different, but still like that self-destructive. But I wanted to talk about the Hecate connection, but let's read that letter first, because I don't have that letter.
Which one? The final
the
letter?
Last one, the final letter that you wanted to read. Yeah.
The final letter from the mother. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Before that, but like, what's in Was it the letter that the new director sent when she died, or was it another letter that the new director
sent when she died?
Yeah, where he says, let's see, where is it? I have it here. So he says, I have a bunch of notes too. Where is it? Yeah, here it goes.
May 5th, 1989.
Yes. But here's a bunch of quotes that Danilowski included from Homer, Carl Jung, Dear Mr., and I'm assuming it says Mr. Truitt because it's blank. Mr. John, we regret to inform you on May 4th, 1989, at approximately 8:45 p.m., your mother, Pelefina Heather Leveille, died in a room in the 3-attic Whalestoe Institute after a detailed examination. Both our resident director, Thomas Jonovich.
Resident doctor.
Resident doctor. Thomas Janovich, MD, as well as the county coroner, confirmed the cause of death was a result of self-inflicted asphyxiation achieved with her bed linens hung from a closet hook. So, door hanging at sunset, Anthony Bourdain style. Please permit us to express our sincere condolences over your terrible loss. Perhaps as with some solace to know that despite the severity of her mental affliction, your mother managed to show much humor in her last year, and attendants said she often spoke fondly of her only son. With this will be a difficult time, we urge you to contact us as soon as possible to make arrangements for her burial. Condition of her enrollment here has already provided for a standard cremation. However, for additional $3,000, we would happily provide a proper casket and service. For another $1,000, a burial plot may also be secured in the nearby Wayne Cemetery. Again, we wish to extend our sympathies over the death of Miss Leveille. We can be of any help.
And he misspells her name in the second instance there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
We can be any help during this time. So it's basically just like, basic corporate speak, more or less. Yeah.
Completely soulless. Like, oh, by the way, your mom's dead. Here's an upsell. Like, just this horrible thing to have received.
For $1,000 extra, for $3,000 extra, we can give her like a total good burial,
proper casket and service. Yeah, we won't just stick her in a coffee can. So, the final letter that Pelefina sent to Johnny was dated May 3rd, 1989. The previous letters, which were dated February, the end of February, and again at the end of March that same year, were cogent and not subject to any sort of not subject to any sort of concrete writing dissolution.
I'm assuming he's like a late teenager, early 20s, because isn't he like in his late 20s in the book? Yeah. Okay.
And it states and she's cogent, but she thinks she's leaving.
Yeah.
She's not leaving. She's like, can you please send me luggage?
Yes.
Can you please send me luggage so that I can pack my things?
Which is very sad, which often happens to institutionalized people. Yeah.
And but of course that's not the case. She's not, and in fact it's a delusion. She has confused herself because the old director said that he was leaving, and indeed he did. And the new director, who wrote the completely soulless letter to Johnny, is the one who took over.
Yeah.
So this is the final letter. With no luggage to speak of, amethyst, lilac, or otherwise, she requested certain colors. I've had nowhere to put my things, and so I've lost all of it. To be honest, I don't know where all of it went. Clearly, the worker bees have stolen it. That's something that she, in her delusions, had referred to the attendants.
The staff,
Yeah, the staff. By the way, I was mistaken. The director didn't leave. He's still here. The new one is the same as... The new one is the same one after all. In other words, everything is fine, though the old director's moods have been a little odd lately. I think I've upset him somehow. There's something malicious in his manner now, very slight but noticeable just the same. A nasty, twisting wire woven into the fabric of an otherwise perfectly decent man. No matter. I cannot tire myself on the feelings of the world. I'm leaving after all, though it is no easy task, especially for this old civil of Hume. Climbs of any kind are trying. Frankly, I'm exhausted by all the planning and the paperwork. Donnie will pick me up soon, very soon. But you, my dear child, you should stay a while. Do that for me, Mommy.
Wow.
And Donnie was Johnny's father, of course.
Yeah.
And so, it's an incredibly sad, an incredibly sad ending to a woman who's sort of in two prisons the whole time, both of the one that is her
Yeah.
and the Whalestoe Institute. But yeah, she was just completely deluded, but masking in her language and in her ability to provide this structure to her final thoughts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, the Whalestoe Letters, you could read this in 2 hours, you know. And I think it heartily recommended. It is chilling and touching and very sad. Or melancholy, I think, would probably be the right word.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, structurally speaking, it goes through a lot of really cool things, and I think, you know, you said you wanted to read the Hecate thing.
Yeah.
But maybe we should also do the coded letter.
Yes. Yeah. But what's interesting is that the Whalestoe Letters, it does sort of put a greater depth to Johnny as a character, but in a way, like
he does seem kind of like a very intelligent slacker, right?
Exactly. But I was gonna ask you about that because, like, from my perspective, she's a very educated woman. She's very up on different languages, from Latin to Greek to
Old English.
And she knows a lot about Greek mythology. And I wonder, like, how did she end up in the position with Johnny's father? I guess, like, I know people like this, by the way, who are like academic bohemes who became like working class, even though they have like a grad degree or whatever. And for various reasons.
A bumblebee.
Yeah. But like, yeah, you know, like they have a high education, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out.
Well, I don't know. It seems kind of a well, his dad, according to both the preface of the Whalestoe Letters, from which I refresh my memory, and his memories of them that I recall from House of Leaves, his dad was a pilot. Like his dad had his dad was like a commercial pilot. He had that's a good job. That's a good it's an upper middle class job. And his mom, like, was, you know, spoke about his father several times in the Whalestoe Letters as like a man of infinite care and care and patience.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe that's just how the pairing worked out. You know, Pelefina was this incredibly effusive, intelligent woman, and, you know, her father was just and Johnny's father was a, you know, more calm and concrete kind of person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who provided these borders on her. So, yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem discordant to me, I guess.
Yeah, true. But I guess, like, but then of course you descend into, like, you know, because of Johnny's father dying and her being insane, he sort of experiences like this sort of interruption of his life where he was meant to be something of, like, say, an academic or some kind of white collar position, but then he ends up as a bum in California.
Right.
Like,
he was working on like a fishing boat. He goes to multiple boarding schools, but then, you know, once he leaves school, ends up like gutting fish on a boat.
Yeah, and his stepfather Raymond, was he like some kind of career criminal or something like that? Or I forget it's been a while since I read.
There were a couple of them. There was the Marine.
Yeah, the Marine.
Right?
Yeah.
Who tried to discipline him, but ended up absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he ultimately, I don't know if Raymond was technically a stepfather. Was he?
I think Raymond was a stepfather or
Okay.
some kind of stepfather figure.
Who basically got him into this, like, you know, black to gray market hustling sort of lifestyle,
semi-criminal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then he tells these elaborate stories with his friend Ludes where he, like, again, like, unreliable narrative. Like, there's several times where Johnny himself, not just the Navidson Record, but Johnny himself will tell like a tall tale. Like, for example, when him and Lude, they're like in their for some reason, I don't know why, but I imagine Johnny, just the way that he talks, like this sort of like morose but reflective style. When I was reading the book, I pictured Johnny as Lemansky from The Shield.
Oh, I've never watched The Shield.
Yeah. But if you look at the actor, like, that's how I picture Johnny.
Like the like just the physical look.
Yeah, like the talk, the look. Like, to me, he sounds and looks like Curtis Lemansky from The Shield.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but
no, yeah, I mean, that I could see that. See that.
Yeah. Like,
I don't think I ever imagine anyone as
I
don't think I ever imagined anyone as blonde, actually. It takes a lot for me to imagine a guy as blonde. Johnny seems like the sort of dude who could just get lost in a crowd, and therefore I imagine him as having brown hair.
Could be, yeah, you're right, yeah. But it's funny because, like, when he describes like his various sexcapades and his like inability to.
In fact, since we mentioned it earlier, I'm now imagining him as Casey Affleck. Like,
you know what? That could work too. That could work.
Because we coincidentally, we're gonna go full circle on that one. So.
No, I could probably imagine him as Casey Affleck. Yeah, that's like for example, like his inability to get with the single mother stripper Thumper. It's like he has this profound inability to, I think, experience the feminine in a proper way because of his experiences with his mother. Like, it seems like a lot of the female characters he meets, they're like very overpowering. Like, I wouldn't say like as far as like terrible mother archetype, but they're certainly like, they're like the feminine in the position of power over him. And I think like that happens to a lot of sensitive young men who have like, sort of like a fundamental like problem or relationship with their own mothers in a certain way. So I think like he becomes a reliable narrator. For example, like when him and Lude, they're trying to like seduce these two chicks in a bar. They go through this elaborate story where they're like running like contraband and they had the like guy, but it's all bullshit, right? And then of course there's this other thing where he like has this like couple, this doctor couple, married couple that he meets when he's like on this journey to find the house. Then he lives in Seattle for a month and they like nurse him back to health. And he's like, no, actually, it's all a lie. Did you actually believe that anyone would care about me? Like, it's, so he also experiences this like unreliable narrative thing that is very, and nowadays it's like sort of played out, right? Like but at the time in the early 2000s, it was sort of like an exciting literary device that nowadays has like been so fundamentally distorted by like, MFA literature. So let's first talk about the Hickey thing, and then we can go into the codex. So here on I have it marked down. So this is a letter from March 15th, 1984. Her rage at Johnny being a time does heal, they say, still where I was free, I would hear straight from Marine man Raymond and end him. I don't doubt even your pacific father would have restored to violence. I do long to hear the details from your tender lips. Please write me as soon as possible and recount everything. The telling will help, I assure you. Did he really break your nose, snap your teeth? Are there still contusions on your face? I confess even having to write these questions stirs a frenzy in the chambers of my soul. I would like nothing more than to tear out the liver of your purported protector and feed it to him with a hiss. He could semper fi that meal all the way to Hades, but since he is shielded from my wrath by my own confusions, damn it, I shall invoke Hecate in her Archon depths, and by scale of dragon, eye of newt, boiled the blood of murdering ministers in Clemenstra's gall, cast the great curse which shall fly directly on dark wind and take up immediate residence of my body, daily chewing on his flesh, nightly gnawing on his bones, until many months from now, months before the final spark of self-awareness expires, he will have withered the total dismemberment and consumption of every limb and organ. This sounds like a Gorgrind lyric here.
So written, so done. The curses cast brute Ilium.
Yeah, like a Chris Barnes era Cannibal Corpse. Yeah. So written, so done. This curse is cast. Fuit Ilium, and now without a doubt, you see your mother is mad. I refer brevis est, though in her case not so brief. At least you shall have a new family. Hopefully this one will be gracious and sympathetic. Your mother mends you with kisses and gentle strokes. Mommy, April 22nd. March 15th, 1984. And then, of course, it jumps to April 22nd, 1984. But what's interesting is that Hecate is the goddess of magic, of witches, but also of different spaces in terms of the liminality of the nocturnal realm that she inhabits, necromancy, and so she does.
There's a reference to haruspection, which is the divination through the examination of organs. So because she's examining his liver, and so there's and I mean, of course it is in the context of the cursing. So there's this this comparison to Hecate is multi-layered and returned to it in various times.
Yeah.
And then Fuit Ilium means Troy has been destroyed, or Troy is Troy was, like, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So
long live Troy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's like the overpowering, abusive masculine being met with the sort of the goddess of insight, of madness and witchcraft and nighttime. And it's like that's sort of
this
like
non-martial revenge.
Exactly. Like Troy is overcome with chthonic madness, in other words. Similar to Agamemnon's wife, Clemenstra, right? Isn't there that story where like she's wailing or something like that, or that was another story from Rome?
Aren't you thinking of Hector's wife?
I'm thinking of Hector's wife. Sorry, I'm thinking of Hector's wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, but then Hecate, like as it says here, as the goddess of boundaries, a quote unquote liminal goddess, as they say here. She holds the keys, etc. And quote, where is this from? Where is this citation? From it's from an academic work. Quote, as the goddess expected to avert harmful or destructive spirits from the house or city over which she stood guard to protect the individual as she or he passed through dangerous liminal places, so places of madness or unknown territory, hint, House of Leaves. Hecate would naturally become known as the goddess who could also refute to avert the demons or even drive them against unfortunate individuals. It was probably her role as guardian of entrance that led to Hecate's identification by the mid-5th century with Enodia, a Thessalian goddess. Enodia's very name, In the Road, suggests that she wrecked over entrances, for it expresses both the possibility that she stood there on the main road into the city, keeping an eye on who entered in the road in front of the private houses, protecting the inhabitants. Would appear as a relationship to various alchemical iconography. In Byzantium, small temples in her honor were placed close to the gates of the city. And here it has various drawing and alchemical diagrams of her. But here's what Carl Jung says about Hecate. So this is a lecture from 1929. So this is, I believe, he's still writing the Red Book, if I recall. Talking with this other professor, lecturer, Henderson. So Henderson says, I studied Greek material and found Selene was the original Greek goddess of the moon. but she never attained the rank of major deity. The Greeks seemed to find her too dim and were dissatisfied with her. Then Hecate comes over. She's usurped by the power of Hecate. So then Jung asks, is it true that Hecate was more considered, but she was in her own right? Henderson says that she had two functions. So I believe Henderson was a classicist that Jung was talking to in this lecture. She was the goddess of birth and fertility. She was predominantly a witch, a goddess of black magic. Her cult was underground and linked up with the Ishtar and Aphrodite with infinite sacrifice and sacrificed prosties, temple prosties. And so, of course, Ishtar being similar to Isis, being the birth mother of the universe, there's also sort of like a very powerful feminine chthonic energy that actually comes from the infinite room. That's also embedded with the story of the Minotaur as well. So here Jung says that you link her cult up with Ishtar and Aphrodite, but she is neither of these. What aspect would Hecate represent? And Henderson says she represents the destroying power of the moon. Decidedly destructive, Jung says. Then Carl Jung says the name itself tells us something. It means that one reaches far, hints farther than an arrow. The primitive beliefs that magic causes of illness is worked by throwing something substantial like a pebble. Certain American Indian tribes believe this is an icicle. And so in House of Leaves, seeing if Danilowski knew about this, when Navy tries to find his brother, he throws flares in every direction, and it's like this infinite space that goes down in a bauble, and he's like basically driving for miles. And so in the House of Leaves, he sees the navigation. He brings with him, like, I guess, a step counter or a mile counter. And he's like, there's no way after 3 hours of bike riding that I've crossed like 50 miles or something like that. Like, it's literally humanly impossible.
Right.
So then he throws the flares in each direction, and he sees that there's nothing but infinite blackness beyond their borders. And so here you have that similar play of nocturnal liminality intersecting with this sort of like mad wisdom of the feminine that Johnny then did, in his own life, right? So then Jung says,
had to experience, right?
Exactly, yeah. So then Jung says, to sum her up, you would say that she was chiefly destructive and so had to be particularly propitiated. But destruction was not, but destruction was not her only quality. We must characterize her more closely, take all her qualities together. She was a deity of black magic, of childbirth, and of crossroads. The main feature is the underground character that gives you the picture. She represented a psychic power, a factor that has all these connections, exceedingly mysterious, underground, helpful, but at the same time destructive, uncanny, and working from the unconscious in a way a man cannot understand. This is a witchcraft, particularly that is especially in women's unconscious. In a man, one can see that his ray reaches far, it is continuously, but in women, one simply cannot account for it. I will give you a very interesting example. A member of our seminar gave me the permission to tell you this. After a discussion of the cross and Christian symbolism, she went home with the moon and the sun in her mind. Her boy of 17 was sick in bed, unoccupied. She gave him his toothbrush to mark to prevent it from being mixed up with his brothers. She left him at work and was talking with her husband downstairs about every matter. Then she became conscious that she was listening and had the feeling that something would happen to the boy. So she went up with him and found them instead the signature of his name. He had made the following picture. Look in the light of our seminar. The mother had said not a word to the boy about it. Reading from the bottom, this first cross, the crescent, then the tau. He made the remark that it could be just as well have been a cross. This X, a human body. The star above we have spoken of is from the collective unconscious, yet is from his own unconscious just as well. This is not merely a thought transference. It is magic effect as Hecate dreams, the language of the collective unconscious. So to me, people want to read this sort of like postmodernism within House of Leaves. But I do think that there's some kind of like analytic psychology of the Jungian flavor going. I mean, because I am a Jungian, so I have to like read into it. But like, to me, there is a deep symbolism with Johnny's mother invoking Hecate, both as a protector, but as a facilitator of an unknown land.
Well, does that? I mean, why would that be at any sort of tension with it being a postmodern style writing?
Yeah, true.
Like what? I mean, it doesn't just because something is something being postmodern. Typically, just I mean, when I would use it, and obviously this is one of the least well defined terms in common usage
in human history. Really,
yeah. It's just awareness of the form in which you're working in a non-technical way, in a critical way. Yeah. But I don't think that would stop you from. I don't think that would stop you from. Just doing good layered writing that reflects deeper and more lasting themes. And so, I mean, these types of references are well layered in all of Danilewski's work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But basically, I mean, I agree with you, but I also don't think that we shouldn't expect that, right?
Yeah, true. No, but that's what I mean. Like, I think that I guess when it comes to like, what would you say if you were to refer to postmodernism as the sort of like overcoming of all sort of like meta narratives, then you would say like, you couldn't really get more anti-postmodern than Young, but at the same time, even Young, like later on in life,
well, I mean, yeah, I think that the defining the germ of postmodernism to me is awareness of, but not respect for forms.
Yeah, true.
So
true. Yeah.
In art, obviously, it's widely, the dissolution of boundaries in general. The purposeful dissolution of boundaries,
or the questioning of boundaries,
be considered.
Well.
Yeah, it could be considered postmodern. In that case, this, the House of Leaves and companion, the Whalestoe Letters, could be really an examination of the dissolution of boundaries.
Yes. Yeah.
And in which case, I guess it would be the superlative postmodern novel, not Infinite Jest, but rather House of Leaves. And, and I
haven't read Infinite Jest, but have you read Infinite Jest?
I have read Infinite Jest.
Of course.
And I mean, there are many good things to say about Mr. Dallas Fort Worth, but
yes.
I think the things that are best about Infinite Jest are better in other writers' writings.
Yeah.
Even earlier guys like Robert Anton Wilson, like the Illuminati trilogy,
definitely. The Illuminati trilogy
has an untold influence on Infinite Jest.
Well, if I were to break out my David Foster Wallace voice, I would say that with House of Leaves, I mean, yeah, it's great, it's exciting, but it leads nowhere.
I'm sweating so much.
It literally leads nowhere. It's a void within the human heart. It's like it's not filled with anything.
Is it hot in here?
They say it's really cold, but I still feel hot.
Do you have an extra bandana? I've gone through all three that I brought.
I have to wring them out, but they say that sweat and perspiration and dust that never leaves this place. But I wonder if it's imagine like David Foster Wallace like going into the house.
He makes every place he was in more humid.
Yeah. What's this roar? But this roar, it's like calling to you. It's a primitive self. It's like, but at the same time, that roar is the house, so it doesn't really matter, right? Like Infinite Jest, like things matter, things feel. You can't feel in this House of Leaves. You can't really, it's like people watch television all day, but they might as well just be watching static. I love when I do my GFs is I do the best David Foster Wallace.
I like your Camille Paglia as well. But, you've thus far avoided it, even though having mentioned the chthonic like 20 times here, you've resisted the urge to cosplay.
Well, in the House of Leaves, the chthonic, it just really it takes over, it overcomes you, and it's like it's funny because I think like Johnny in the book.
Your Paglia, since you've done them back to back, your Paglia and your David Foster Wallace are it's like Polya is on amphetamines, and David Foster Wallace is on Valium, and that's like the core
benzos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. No, it's funny because apparently in the House of Leaves, like in Johnny's notes, he actually tried to like contact some of these academics that were referenced that Zappano was referencing,
and
I
he made them up.
Yeah, he made them up, but I believe he made up half of them. But then the real ones, I believe, Johnny said he tried to he emailed Camille Paglia, and Camille Paglia said go self or something. That'd be great. She totally would though. She what? This house? This film? What? It's
It would have been very funny if Danilewski had written, and it would have been very funny if he had written an actual letter to Camille Paglia.
Yeah.
And published her response, her a letter about a fake thing, asking her input, and then print her bewildered response.
So in the Navidson Record, this is from our House of Leaves on Reddit. Camille Paglia says that claims of the Navidson Record. Where is it? Let me find it. Camille Paglia claims of the Navidson Record. View spoilers. I hate when Reddit does that. View spoilers. Everyone's read this book. If you're on,
it's been out for 24 years. It has existed for 24 years.
There's Zoomers who have read this who didn't exist when the book was published. So, Johnny Truant made early on that everything we read about it is false. Did Zappano exist? Does Johnny even exist? Where does this Reddit poster talk about Camille Paglia? You have to realize this was mid-90s Paglia. This wasn't this isn't post cancellation Camille Paglia. Well, I guess she was being canceled by Academia and Susan Sontag way earlier. So let me see, where is it? I can't believe I can't find this. Camille Paglia says of the Navidson Record that where is it? Oh boy. But anyway, so yeah, Control F. No, but anyways, I would say that there is also, in terms of Paglia's main schematic in the sexual personae, that you do have sort of this sort of negative space is inherently feminine or inherently of the female unconscious. Yeah, to which she's getting this from Jung as well. But yeah, go ahead while I try to find this.
The void is the female is the female form, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Here you go. It was in the comments. That's from the part of the book where Danilewski makes fun of early explanations of literary criticism. Specifically, Camille Paglia claims of the Navidson Record that the whole thing's about a womb. The whole thing's about a womb envy or a vagina envy, and tells Karen that her character's quote, fear of the darkness was obviously invented by a man because darkness is a primordial feminine force. So real women aren't afraid of it. But you know what's funny is that this was when people still thought that Camille Paglia was a rad femme, whereas nowadays she's Camille Paglia's the post-left philosopher.
Yep.
She's the Red Scare philosopher.
Yeah, complete. Now she's just the chud girl.
The chud, yeah. She's I'm not like other girls. I'm not
I'm not like other girls. I like having a vagina.
It's funny that Anna and Dasha haven't been able to nail the Paglia interview. I don't think she does interviews anymore. She's too old or something.
I mean, she's pretty old, right?
Yeah, she's old. She's let's see. Camille Paglia.
She probably doesn't want to. I bet she doesn't want to talk to women.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I mean, she did talk to Jordan Peterson a few years ago.
Right? That's what I'm saying. I bet she just doesn't want to talk to women.
Yeah, true.
She's
77. She's 77.
She's not that old. She'd definitely do interviews if she wanted to.
Yeah.
77 is not that old. Van Dyke's 99 doing interviews.
You know what's funny is that Rick Janneret was still calling Buffalo Sabres games while he was 80 years old. So with the same same fire and fear as well. It was pretty cool. But no, like she's only 77, but I think she probably doesn't want the hassle. But she did come out with Provocations in 2018. I believe Logo, our good friend. Oh God, I can't even joke about that. Logo Daedalus did this interview.
Golo, sweet Daedalus.
Laurel, you must abandon your predicates, Laurel. I believe Laurel, he wrote an article. Was it in I think it was on his Substack or WordPress, or was it in American Sun, reviewing or no, it was actually Autistic Mercury, I think. He was reviewing Provocations by Camille Paglia. But anyway, so that's Twitter lore. So yeah, I do think that Hecate occupies a significance and that you could read into it. But what I mean is that I think that as people would want to, like, the Jordan Memersons of the world, which is one thing, like, what's funny is that for all these years, I haven't really read into the commentaries by Jungians, what they feel about Jordan Peterson being like chuddified. Because like a lot of them are kind of like boomer hippies, like Jungian analysts or people that write about Jung. So I'd imagine they wouldn't have like a totally great thing to say about Peterson. But, Peterson's like, now he's like this, Daily Wire shill, but whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I never got into Peterson personally. I've never read, 12 Rules for Life or whatever.
Yeah.
His stuff is.
Maps of Meaning.
Nah, I haven't read that either.
Well, it's funny.
I've never read. Yeah. I've never read anything. I've watched some his interviews and talks lectures and stuff, but I've never read.
I went to see his debate with Zizek. It cost me $90 for one ticket. To live tweet it.
I mean, he from my recollection, he got completely zoned.
Yeah. It was true. You know what's funny? That they didn't stick around to do any Q&A afterwards, and they didn't sign any autographs. I know. Yeah. They were selling Zizek books, and I think they couldn't sell. Like there was like a vendor, and you could tell they were like communists. They were like selling all the Zizek books, the ones in the red binding. You know that one? Yeah. Like they were selling like Pervert's Guide to Ideology, Parallax View. But I don't think they were selling Maps of Meaning, because Maps of Meaning had been out of print at that time. I have a copy of Maps of Meaning, but like no, the reason I bring Peterson is because I think as much as like Peterson would want to think that Jung is like the ultimate red pill, or rather suppository against postmodernism, I think that even Jung in the end of his life, for example, when he wrote about the UFO phenomenon, he would say that archetypal content in the unconscious would take on modernist or even postmodernist forms, to which he would ascribe the UFO phenomenon.
I think that maybe Jordan. The thing that has turned me off for the Peterson is that it seems like he has the least nuanced understanding of what postmodernism is.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the many
James
understandings of postmodernism that exist. Like his might be the least, the one with the least nuance, or
exactly,
or in fact even precision. It's she doesn't like, basically.
Well, it's like James Lindsay, exactly. That's woke, right? Yeah. It's woke nonsense. No, but that's what I mean, because for example,
of the Archangel Michael.
No, but even like when Jung talks about like postmodern Marxism, like there was like during the 70s and 80s, there's like a whole war between postmodernists and Marxists. Like even, like Marxists famously hate Foucault. And I think like, first of all, Marxism is a grand narrative. Like there's no such thing obviously as postmodern Marxism. Like it's, so I think that like, whatever, that's Jordan Peterson. But to get back to the book though, the letters, I wrote a bunch of other things too. Let me see if I can find them in the margins. But it always alludes back to the main theme of unconsciousness. So even, for example, in June 26, 1984, your sentences cast spells. Once again, you've turned your mother into a silly schoolgirl. The Hawthorne's faith, I put pink ribbons in my hair and subject everyone, including, of course, the good director, to a complete account of your prodigious accomplishments. to go from Jung to Freud, do you think there's sort of like an actual like consuming mother, like there's almost like a sort of libidinal character to the way she's speaking of her son? Like he's a sensitive young man, and you know.
I don't. I really don't.
I'm just reading too much into it.
Even though, like maybe there's a tone of that, but you have to remember that he's like 9 at this point, and she's just like, oh, I'm so pleased that you're so articulate for such a young person. Like,
well, do you say that? But like, for example, single mothers that have boys, there's like they become the man of the house sort of deal. And like,
well, having been that, I can assure you that I was not bringing home the bacon when I was 9.
No. But what I mean is like psychologically, like they graft on like the personality of the father or ex-husband or whatever onto them. And I didn't know that your mother was a single mother.
Yep.
Okay.
Due to the unfortunate passing of my father when I was an infant. So.
Oh, what happened? If you don't want to go into
we're not going to go into that.
No.
No offense.
Maybe
I might tell you, but it doesn't need to be out there.
Yeah. Plus, it's probably doxed information. So
it's super doxed information, actually. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That has not been my experience. But maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it's something that I can't see because I'm.
It's psychoanalytic reading.
I can't see the water because I'm a fish. But yeah, it's like. I mean, maybe there is like maybe there is a dimension of that, but I don't think that it would have failed to come up again given the way that Danilewski writes. And this is essentially the only time that happens that I can recall, where she says something like, "Oh, you've made me giddy as a schoolgirl,"
Yeah. There's no overt overtones. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it doesn't feel like there's covert ones, especially when we get into the especially when we get into like some of the levels of the coded letter, or when her sanity is deteriorating. You would expect that type of thing to come out more, and it doesn't. So,
well, I could never get the coded letter. I tried doing it, but we'll get into it. But
yeah.
So here she says on July 24th, 1985, I wrote a bunch of notes. She's talking about his father being a pilot. You are more beautiful than your father. It made no sense to hear how the terrible Marine man could beat you like an animal and call you a beast. Such flawless features, such dazzling eyes, so sharp with the snap of intelligence, yet so warm and alive. Then she says, among the glades and arbors of old mountain black forests, the waves of dead seas, places still untouched by progress. So I'm assuming like her husband flying above. In the tradition of all that existed long before the invention of the modern or the convenience store, your tale-telling stilled wind and bird as if nature herself had ordered it, knowing you carried a preserving magic worthy of us all. Again, similar theme to Kate. Donnie had instances like that when he spoke of flying, his only real love. He could still the world. You, however, seem to manage it for everything. It's rare than stupendous gift, and yet you've absolutely had no idea you have it. You've listened to tyrants and lost faith in your qualities. What's worse, the only one to tell you otherwise is a mad woman locked up in the loony bin. Dear me, this is a mess. So now she's being self-aware of her condition, but she's still placing this magical significance onto Johnny, which I think is an allusion to him finding the book. But also, like, I noticed that there's a lot of like Axis Mundi symbolism. Again, me being me, at a very early age, having my brain fried by Carl Jung. Before Peterson, by the way, before it was cool, if you could say.
You didn't get one-shotted by an Aztec demon. It was Carl Jung.
Well, I actually did, but that's another topic for another time. Anyways, so I said like non-places upon his apartment, the wall.
Mushrooms are an Indo-European demon, so it's okay.
Yeah. The wall, child. Oh yeah. The well that Navy has in his dream. Why did I write child grape in the side? Maybe because oh, that's right. Yes, because Karen was horrifically abused by her own father, and she was put down a well.
Did you actually write child grape in your notes?
No, I wrote the R word.
Okay. I was just gonna say,
put this publicly.
I get it. I'm just saying that if it was if you actually used the, you wrote down like these damn gamer words, like in your real writing. If the Geo edit comes out in the writing as well.
Group chats, if you notice, I do that. I write grape with the GRAY, but the Y is capital or the R is capital. Yeah, I do that. Madness, Johnny's mother. Then he feels like he alludes to in the book that he's stuck in a hole. He can't get out. If you recall the famous Alice in Chains song. Navy's dream of the dark light, the well, the blue light that he sees, that he then sees in House of Leaves in the hallway. Then there's a dream about the seashell, which is more of like a productive thing. It's more of like that's the above action, which maybe I'll get into in another episode. Then of course the sea, the unconscious, the house is like the unconscious. So here there's always this axis mundi pull of like above and below, and sort of like Navy having to go lower to get higher. And so here Johnny is descending, but his father was a pilot, so that's of course
was right.
That archetypal symbolism. So yeah.
Which comes out in the code letter.
So let's go to the codex finally. I could never decipher this because it seems like gibberish. She's like writing gibberish. It's like a wall of text. Yeah. Go ahead.
It is a wall of text. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
this is what prisoners would write to like fly kites. When you have to like order a green light on somebody. Yeah.
It's spend a lot of time in the slammer, huh, Gio? You've been brewing up some pruno.
I've watched a lot of prison documentaries and prison YouTubers.
I would totally, if I ever get sent to prison, I'm gonna be the plug for all the pruno. Just to be clear, like I've tried making it before just for fun, and I bet I could just absolutely rake in the commissary bucks.
Well, I bet you could like smuggle in winemaking yeast. I know prisoners have done that.
What? I mean, you can. Here's the secret: yeast is in everything.
Yeah,
so
true.
You just got to make sure you get a pure enough sample. So,
but some of the pruno is like totally deadly. It's like literally poison.
Yeah. No. You just have to make sure it's not methylated. So
then they use the stinger with a water bucket to make White Thunder, where they like percolate the alcohol.
See, now that would be brilliant to actually be able to distill in prison. That would be
they do it. They do it. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
I remember one guy, I think it was Big Herc, said like the whole like they actually like because they would get the electricity from the light plug, and he's like we were making White Thunder, and it like literally blew up a washroom, and the guards were like we were on lockdown for like a month, But anyways, go ahead. The codex. What is the codex?
So there's a coded letter at one point as her at one point as her sanity deteriorates, she believes that she is the subject of essentially gang stalking.
Yeah.
And she is trying to get messages out to him. And so she writes a letter to him, which
she's a target individual. Yeah.
Yeah. She writes a letter to him, which is of course a letter for the audience. It's a letter for the reader here. She says, "Dear dearest Johnny, pay attention. The next letter I will encode as follows. Use the first letter of each word to build the subsequent words and phrases. Your exquisite intuition will help you sort out the spaces. I've sent this via a night nurse. Our secret will be safe." And it's unclear if this letter ever actually like made it out, like whether or not either of these letters were sent or whether they were among her effects, because the Whalestoe letters were and I apologize for having dropped this frame, but Whalestoe Letters were to be burned along with the effects of a bunch of people when the Whalestoe Institute closed.
Yeah, this is when they were
and it was
closing all the
saved,
institutions.
and it was saved by Walden Werda, who was one of the orderlies at the and then given to Johnny.
It was sort of like Kafka's writings. It was supposed to be destroyed, but his best friend didn't have the heart
Max
to do
Brod. Yeah, he was like, "You are my best friend and most trusted ally. I need you to burn all of my work." And Max Brod was like, "Nah, dude, this fire. I'm
fire, bro.
Fire, bro. You got to believe in yourself."
Yeah. Did Kafka's sunset, or he died of some disease or something? I forget.
I can't remember how he died.
I think he sunsetted.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
let me actually look this. This is gonna bother me. But yeah, go ahead, Cap. Go ahead about the codex.
Right. Yeah. So this is a very long letter, obviously, because each sentence, the initial letter of each sentence, or the initial letter of each word is one letter in a different letter.
Yeah. Kafka died of TB, tuberculosis.
Okay. Yeah.
But he ordered his friend to burn all
tuberculosis.
no, actual TB. I think when he was sick, because this is before they had penicillin. Or wait, was it penicillin or was it
Yeah,
that treats antibiotics.
Yep.
He ordered his best friend, a publisher, to burn all his works, and of course, like, his best friend just didn't have the heart to do it.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a no.
Thank God. Like, that's one of those like tangentials of history. Like, imagine if Kafka didn't exist to the public eye. That would be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. No one would be able to call things Kafka-esque with low levels of accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So there is. I think the way that I want to read this is I want to read the full letter.
Yes.
And then I will read the two ciphers in it. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dearest everything and remarkably elegant, Seraphim's truth, Johnny, oh heavens nearing you. Tell hope everything you hear and value every fine outward understanding, near day at windows and yore, told over by rectopathic elephants announcing karmic meddling ends. Restore a person's entity and fit in fine tellings you should instead x-ray years, easily ardent rules on lying death beneath a ghostly overture forming barren ohms near early stones. Their hammers enjoin rare entreaties in sullen norths on waters over rare spoons endlessly aching near deeper dreams often noted there by eels lost in early vales, esteemed on thoughtful hints, entered rapaciously wined in sour evenings. So we'll just
sounds kind of like Ulysses.
Yeah, well, and,
it's like
and it is referential. So so what that says is, dearest Johnny, they have found a way to break me, a 56-year-old bag of bones.
Wow!
There is no worse, and don't believe otherwise. And so it's actually the words that are as it is constructed will say things like otherwise as unthoughtful hints entered rapaciously wined in sour evenings. And so the tone of the words that are used to construct this while being technically grammatically correct sentences are also sort of giving implications and overtones to the words that they're being translated into.
Can you repeat that sentence you just read?
Which one? The one that was translated, or my explanation?
No, the one that's there, not the translated, the codex.
Okay, so their hammers enjoined rare entreaties in sullen norths on waters over rare spoons, endlessly aching near deeper dreams, often noted there by eels lost in early vales, esteemed on thoughtful hints, entered rapaciously wined in sour evenings. And that is there is no worse, and don't believe otherwise. Referencing the.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's sort of like on sullen evenings. Like, it's got like
eels lost in early vales.
Yeah.
So
what is that alluding to?
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
but this is bullshit. Like, she didn't actually get rid, did she?
Well, there's no confirmation of that.
Okay.
This is the best that we can say, is that there's no confirmation of it. And it's possible that, it's possible and in fact probable that she wasn't. But it shows her distress and her decaying mental state. And it's not about the truth or the falsehood of what she's alleging.
Right.
It's about her expression of it and Johnny's feeling of her expression of it. Right? Like, those are the layers that we're operating on here. It's like the facts of the matter are kind of not
irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, I think it brings to mind what Artie Lang said in The Divided Self, his model of the unconscious, when it came to him researching schizophrenics and interviewing schizophrenics, how those very like pungent metaphors are nonsensical or they're fantastic, but in reality they sort of allude to the unconscious state of that patient themselves.
Well,
so
I mean, the thing, the schizophrenics make it, the thing that they do internally, as schizophrenics describe this once they're lucid, is that they will notice patterns where in fact patterns do not exist. And when they try to express themselves, they will express themselves in, illusions and reference, the way that everybody does all the time, in fact. But theirs will be a different set of illusions and reference that make complete sense to them, but are nonsensical to others because they lack a common frame. And so, because they're just generating new implications over and over again. And it can cause them to radically misinterpret the intentions of others, which is the real curse of schizophrenia. Is that it cuts you off and isolates you from everyone else.
But that's for a purpose. That's what Artie Lang was saying, because he called it the false self construct, and that the false self system, and that there's sort of like the true self is what he called the inner citadel. That's your like quote unquote real self. And the externalized metaphor of who you are, that's a way of like obfuscating the sort of like intense paranoia that you experience in terms of, because if you realize like this is Gestalt and existential psychology. So Artie Lang, he's saying like to a schizophrenic, the process of individuation, the process of gaining oneself from the other, which is what you do literally since the time you're born, right? Your mother gives you a sense of self when you're a baby. Then when you grow up, your schoolmates, teachers, authority figures, basically the world gives you your sense of subjectivity. But the world, as Artie Lang says, can easily take that away. So to prevent that, you create this elaborate false self system as a schizophrenic. So for example, he says like one patient told him, "I'm made of glass and it's shattering," right? You're made of glass, meaning that you are fragile in your construction of the self. So you're not really made of glass, obviously, right? You're not like some, comic book.
He also doesn't think that he's actually made of glass. He thinks that he thinks that he has no ability to withstand the information coming from outside of him.
Exactly. Right? And the real self is in this citadel, in this elaborate armed camp. That goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But what Artie Lang says, the real terror is that there's actually no separation. It is just yourself. And that process of the other, the big other in the philosophic terms, giving you your sense of subjectivity, that's like just a reality that we have to live through. And, but this,
I always, my inclination is here to think that all information, like all inputs, right? Whether that's quantitative or merely sensory, or your own internal pattern recognition system. All information is both additive and erosive.
Exactly.
Right. And so And so if you have no ability to, if you are only constantly accreting and while eroding simultaneously, so that the entire conception is always and forever new, right? You're unable to maintain a balanced center point,
a fragmented self forever.
Yeah. Then yourself, then you will never have any sort of, yourself will never have a center of gravity and will be constantly a floating melange of whatever is surrounding you.
Exactly.
The latest information that has been brought in.
And that's unironically what Byung-Chul Han says about modern life in the digital age. Yeah. But but when you talk about that, but also when it comes to schizophrenia, there's something that Deleuze really, or it could have been, actually it may have been Guattari in either Chaosmosis or Three Ecologies, where he says that if you look at, for example, the history of Western philosophy in terms of metaphysics, in terms especially of the inner schematic of like post-Kant, in Kant's inner schematic post-Copernican turn, where the understanding gives weight or consistency to reality, right? That information enters into the self, the understanding sorts it, reason is the motivating factor to assemble data, sense data into a coherent picture, right? Even though we can't access a noumenal realm, but reason presupposes the noumenal realm. I think it was Guattari that says that schizophrenia incredibly complicates that basic schema in Western philosophy from Descartes to Kant to Hegel. Because if you have somebody that can't cogitate that process of a consistent reality, then it's not really universal.
Right.
So it's like postmodernists like basically stabbing Kant in the back, right? So, but in the same way, it's true because but to bring it back to House of Leaves, though, where we have this sense of unreliability, we have this distortion of time. Now we have the reality of Johnny's mother. It's like her saying that she's is not a real. I mean, okay, let's face it. In these institutions, that unfortunately happened quite a bit.
Yep, totally occurred. Absolutely.
Yes, because it was to this day, it's very easy to exploit mentally ill and homeless people. So you have very terrible people that would work in these. Oh, go ahead, Catherine.
But that little redundant is all I was going to say.
Oh yeah.
I'm anti-homeless, by the way. I'm anti the concept of homelessness. It doesn't exist in the first world, except as a symptom
mental illness.
Well, I'm a little hostile to the concept of mental illness itself, as in like the medical model.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But the dysfunction, obviously, all the dysfunction is real, right? The
disruptive mental states.
Maybe the medical infrastructure around it is not real, but the dysfunction is of course real. And but the homelessness is mostly a symptom of a mental dysfunction, whether that's substance driven, derived, or encouraged.
Yeah, it's chicken and the egg. It usually occurs with both, right?
Yeah. But no one is economically homeless in the first world.
Oh, you could get food anywhere, But I would think that there's between abject poverty in the third world and like Western homelessness. Not to say that we shouldn't treat these people with compassion. There should be, put it this way, an authoritarian solution.
We got a lot of homeless when we closed the institutions.
Yeah.
And loosen the drug laws.
I mean,
I'm not saying those are just correlated. I'm saying there's a causal
in a way,
link.
like you have to force people to be free, as Rousseau would say, in the sense that you need, because in my opinion, like homeless people, it's like you're rotting away human capital. I mean, I hate that term because it's like all these Silicon Valley nerds like Hanania use it, and it really like atomizes the human into like a homo economicus. But for for a colloquial term, let's say human capital.
My mother told me I was special. I was a special economic zone.
Some people, that's actually true. But anyways, so I think that in terms of human resources, I don't like a lot of right wingers. They have like this performative cruelty against homeless people. Like, let's do the Sam Hyde, Rutgers, TED talk. Like, we're just gonna, But I do think that if you view a population as a form of not just standing reserve, but as like sort of a source of national strength, then to have like large swaths of the population essentially rotting away. Now, there's people that actually probably deserve to rot away through criminality and through them just not being able to exist in functioning society. But I mean, the ultra criminal, I mean, we have to deal with them in another way. Right. But the people that don't deserve it, who are institutionalized, I think that institutionalization needs to happen in a better way. Now, before the 80s, before Ronnie Reagan and neoliberalism essentially destroyed these public institutions and decentralized them in a lot of ways, there were incredible abuses. If you look at, for example, abandoned institutions like Forest Haven, you look at what the institutions, what was it called, Willowbrook or the one that made Geraldo Rivera's career, the children's institution, where there's horrific abuses going on. You name it, like
just a warehouse for humans. Yeah,
exactly, a warehouse for human suffering. Yeah, and just basically holding people like they are kind of like standing reserve, only without a purpose, right? So, and of course, that goes to the Bataille thing about the capital creating waste, right? So there were horrific abuses. There were people that were essentially predators that would get in these positions of being, wardens, and they, it's very easy to exploit people in an institutional setting. Right. For example, I believe that there should be no men in women's prisons, no male guards, and there should be no women in male institutions. That just, to me, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
sure. Because exploitation happens all the time.
And you mean men's institutions like banking and government, right?
No, prisons. I mean,
I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, maybe that too. But no, yeah, in prisons, yeah, like women wardens, they, there's, I mean, prisoners.
Hey man, I've seen them. Chicago. I know how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so I think that there definitely has to be done right. But to get back to the book, though, she's not saying that she may have been physically assaulted, but more that her sanity and her position is imposing this incredible burden on that.
Yes,
that walled off self.
Yeah, this belief exists within her, right?
Yeah,
and so, okay, there's quite a bit more of this letter, but
go ahead.
But we're gonna see the same thing over and over.
Oh yeah.
Try handling easy attitudes to tasting efforts, naming dances, attending new. Well, okay, sorry. Before I do this, they have found a way to break me, a 56-year-old bag of bones. There is no worse, and don't believe otherwise. Okay, and that's what's translated so far.
Yeah.
Try handing easy attitudes to tasting efforts, naming dances, attending numerous titles so dolorously ostracized in time. Over tumbles, healing ends, raw suffering done on installment trips. Negotiate on the Easter venue, every reeling youth declares awful years, not oneric trespasses, affected victoriously every rainy year, wearing emerald elements, muttering and yodeling by ear near other totemic ears, venturing easily near even victories, even rare you might ogle, never tell them. But under tethers teach him every yell delivered on Irenic tables. Soon, over moons easing on noons, ends ivy dawns on needles' thumbs, knowing nothing on women announcing love, waning at yesterday's stars, ceasing over magic easels stinging. Why he ever needed interior taps sung dying at Raven Kings, leering antimonies, telling everything. Interesting virtues eclipsed late, especially at rolling numerical, ethereal, dares not overly tested to oversimplify. Creatures returning eidetic anguish meaning. Simple creatures return eidetic anguish meaning. Issues noticing guys, girls at very elevated meetings. Emoting harvests on peculiar estuaries. Avidly nullified, deceased, unwanted, nor at never sworn worn events. Rendered embarked deceased, having old pennies embalmed in stews, soon heating at tawny townships. Every right employee decides hearing over permissions entertained. Theater has instilled nothing kind or favorable yelling over unsung rituals. Hamlet answered in tempting I ams and nurtured. Islands torn in seas far away, removed somewhere at nocturnal engagements requiring ties on crepe, held out on steel envelopes reporting animal penchants, erased, tampered, handily, all near sliming hated ancillary tributes, told every raw enormity, despite hopeless odes performed effortlessly. Sanitize, optimize, I so underbear my inner truth, all negotiated. Dear, I dramatize rules, instigating foul truth. And so that is the attendants do it. Others do it. Not every day, not every week, maybe not even every month, but they do it. Someone I don't know always comes when it's dark, late. I've learned not to scream. Screaming gave me hope, and unanswered hope is shattered hope. Think of your Haitian.
Whoa.
It is far saner to choose than shattered hope. So I submit and I drift. I let caprice and a certain degree of free association take me away. When she says "think of your Haitian," it's a reference to his time on the boat. He saved a man. So
yeah,
she's begging to be saved.
And then after it descends into concretism where it writes overlapping text, forgive me, the director. Yeah.
Yeah, later on, yes. And the also in this section, there starts to be a Caesarean cipher. And a Caesarean cipher is when there's capitals in odd places, so not word initial, not where they ought to be, and so there's a secondary cipher that we will have that I'll tell you at the end. Install letters every time cameras attack priceless rubies in captive Eskimos at noble dens, at cunning embassies, running tainted ambages near dear eagles going right every excellency on free-flowing rides and scrolled euphony as soul-searing ocular cats install and tender immeasurable owls never tearing away known emblems murdered everywhere and worn at yarn. Some over-meaning enemies take illicit measures, erecting sayings, I mean, something telling in love, lone, answers washed and yearned long, organized near gaping arcs, fleeing terrors encroaching right in terrifying sin done on nothing ending, all flying to explications removed here, every swoon going on never ending. This hopeless effort slinking to relate anguish, never gathered, ever right. This hopeful effort answered too, telling either not dear and not tainted, telling her each curse under some toothless odor designed in awful negotiations, testing hapless engineers juicing amber nights in torrid opium runs, causing lone ether ambulating numbskulls in not good mental after knave, watering at inner themes insisting neat grass means a name. Doing it right there, you man and nam. They hear every normal insight going hard to Takalakman in darkening years, in notorious games, unsung, paternally and famously told, even right hoisted insipid me. That is, sometimes I'm still away long after it's done, after he's gone, the stranger, the attendant, the custodian, the janitor, the cleaning man, waiting man, dirty man, the night tidying up after him. Inspire me in naming heaven, even loved losing God in vain, in nothing gained, in nothing told over hells each and every even north why he even returned, every instigation so ominously mentioned each time in many evening square, told heroically in near kettles, often frowned yearning over umbrage requiring beneficial escapes, azure up to icy falls under looming fame, and time heard every rain when inside the hat hops in school dramas, recalled each ambassador, mentioned yearly wintering in nether glass, soon ambivalently nearing dark offerings, not listed young to hollow every night, dust operas in almost lost, leaning on winds, making you so elfin, like fools told over chocolate raisined youth. Never order two B's ending C as upper sneers exacerbate yearning over uninspired rituals mentioned on the hurtling embers, revealed withering after so read and performed enough deeds after games at inner nodes. By understanding two bets, every corner allowed use soon enjoyed sordid hymns in jammed love on very early days, summer on memory, under careful harms, wintering, hammering at two stony hard edges, carried over under libations deemed near every venture, enchanted, realistically hovering and venturing, ethereal by educible ecdiastis, nights answering lessons learned over ways ever dreaded, told on knowledge, ending every poem. Said undertaking, cold hands announce sorry instincts, lighting lips you gave in red lines. And that is, I'm in hell, giving into heaven, where sometimes I think of your beautiful father with his dreamy wings, and only then do I allow myself to cry.
Thank you for listening to the Content Minded podcast. If you wish to support me and listen to every episode in full, then please go to patreon.com/giantairproductions and substack.com/Gio's Content Corner. There you will find the full archive of every Content Minded episode, as well as every Giant Art Review episode, and exclusive to all patrons, the weekly Cole Report, where I break down interesting stories and discourse from throughout the week. Subscribe today to keep the content renaissance alive.